Hello and welcome, I am Lance or Ontiablo. I have just spent the last year learning how to make a video game at Open Window. Now of course this is only the first year of 3 years for my degree. I didn't only spend time learning how to make a game, I also did other things like screen acting, sound design, 3D animation, drawing, and even a few other theory modules. But this is about game design and what I've done so far. This video will be about the first game I've made with absolutely no experience. It did take quite a bit of time, a whole semester, but I'm not gonna lie, I had a great deal of fun when I'm making this game. At Open Window, we make use of the Unity game engine. At first, my lecturer slowly introduced us on how to make use of the engine, showing us around, making us navigate the menus and all that, and then how to simply, rotate and move objects around. Slowly but surely, we learned quite a lot and eventually got used to making use of the engine. Now, for the first game, we made complete use of visual scripting. We weren't allowed to use any sort of C# or anything like that. We just had to make use of visual scripting. Visual scripting in Unity is a method of programming that allows you to create gameplay mechanics and logic without traditional code. Instead of typing lines of script, you use a visual node-based interface to connect blocks or nodes that represent functions, events, and variables. In Unity, visual scripting, formerly Bolt, now integrated into Unity, lets you create logic visually by connecting these nodes in a flowchart-like system. Each node represents a piece of functionality, example, movement, input detection, or animations, and connecting them defines how your game operates. We use visual scripting because, we're all first years and we don't know how to code, or at least we didn't know how to code. And we're also all creative, so it seemed like a good fit as an introduction on how coding works. Just a quick note before I continue on with this video, just know that this is not a tutorial. I'm just going to be showing you what I did and showing kind of some of the result. I wasn't exactly thinking ahead at the time, so I didn't record the whole process either. Also, this was a university project that had to be a Donkey Kong clone originally, and then turning it into a whole different platform experience for the second level. Anyway, let's move on to what I did. Before we even began to make the game, we first learned about the engine. We learned how to add things into the game, import things from the Unity Assets Store, move things around, the actual bare basics of making use of the engine. From there, I learned how to make a character controller, which is basically just how the character moves from A to B. Once I had that down, I then learned how to actually have the character interact with the map. Like, for example, the ladders and the other consumables, like the blue slime for a speed boost, the green slime for extra health, and the carrots for additional points, and even the red slimes that take your life away. I built up the first level to look a lot like a Donkey Kong style level. I even had the slimes move in a way that sort of simulates or emulates what the barrel does in Donkey Kong. I also added a few red slimes that also sort of act as a bit of patrolling slimes, just, because I felt like it. I also gave the player a few extra routes in order to get to the victory, instead of just one plain route and that's the only route you can use. I also added a way for the player to get some extra points in a satisfying way, or at least in a way that I think is satisfying. And that was already the end of the first half of the first semester. That went by so quickly. I thought that was a nice introduction to how to make a game. So then came the second half of the first semester. Now we have to make the second level using all that we've already learned. We have to make a complete platform experience. We also learned how to make use of tile painting, which I thought was absolutely flippin' revolutionary. At this point, I was like, are you kidding me? This is insane. Instead of actually individually handling the different parts of the platforms and all that, you can just paint. You can basically just paint using layers and stuff to make the platforms. I was like, are you kidding? This is insane. Anyway, in this level, I changed up my movement a bit. I added a book for the player to reach in order to upgrade the movement. This allowed the player to jump a little bit higher, do some wall sliding, do some wall jumping even. This was a bit more complicated than what I thought it was going to be when I tried to implement it. It took quite a bit of time, but once it did actually work, it worked pretty well. I'm pretty sure I could have done a better job, but for the time that I had and the experience I had, I thought this was fine. I also changed the enemies a bit, and I gave the player a way to actually kill the enemies by landing on top of them like a traditional platform sort of experience. I made it so that the player had to have a negative Y velocity and end up landing on top of the slime in order to actually kill it. I also added some keys for the player to find in order to actually finish the level. I also added a whole bunch of extra carrots and chests for the player to find in order to get insane amounts of points. I also felt a bit creative and added a few hidden ones that the player can then try and find using a lever as well to get some hidden platforms and then move on. I also added a way to actually keep track of the score even after you actually finish the game. That way, if the player gets a new high score, it'll actually show up at the end saying new high score. And to be honest, that was it. That was the first semester done. That was the game. I'm super happy with what I did in the first semester for my game, and I'm quite happy with the result. I'm also very much looking forward to showing you the second game that I made through the second semester. That video is coming soon, TM. If you would like to know a bit more of the process in a bit more detail, I'm leaving an entire a second section of where I do go into things a bit more into depth. But just so you know, those videos were recorded for the lecturer, so they are absolutely not for entertainment purposes. With that being said, this is pretty much the end of the video. So watch it if you would like to, otherwise it's fine, the video ends here. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Alright, so welcome. I thought I would share with you the main menu of WizOne. Shows you everything you need to know. Alright, so firstly, I have pickups to increase your score. As you can see on the top right there, every time I pick them up, it increases the score. I have the green slime for extra health. I have the blue slime so the player can go nyong. So I have it so the player can either go left or can go right. The intentional way is to get them to use the blue slime to get to the ladder like I did on earlier. But the player is more than welcome to come this way as well. Get the extra health. It's a bit more of a secret way. The player can even go all the way up over here and then get another carrot. It's a bit more of a secret way, but I'm cool with the player being able to do that. Then I have a way for the player to get all the way up here, get some more points, nice and satisfying if they want to. Also, if the player comes this way, they will die. Retry button does in fact work. I'm gonna quickly go ahead and finish the game. And there we go. I also have a menu button that does in fact work, and then the quit button works. Okay, so most of the code is quite basic. There was a few things that I had problems with. Firstly, it was like the ladder issue, where if I were on the ladder, I would climb and I would bonk my head and I wouldn't be able to get up, right? Because of the collider on the platform. So what I did was I used the collision oh wait, hang on, let me just have a look what it's called again. The layer collision matrix. I made use of the layer collision matrix by adding a layer. I added a layer called ignore terrain, and I added 2 more layers called terrain and terrain static. Terrain static I gave to the bottom here. I'll always collide with that whenever I'm on this, right? Whenever I'm on the ladder. Because otherwise I had this issue where I would go up, I would ignore this platform because it's on terrain. And then I would go up, but sometimes I would go all the way through here and then I would just go all the way down. So that was not okay. I'll show you in the code actually. I set the player to layer 6 whenever I'm climbing, whenever ace climbing is true. That way, whenever I'm on ignore terrain, which is layer 6, whenever I'm on layer 6, I can go right through over here and then continue up without bonking my head and being stuck. By making use of the layer collision matrix, I made that possible by unticking these. Now, the other thing that wasn't very basic was my slime. For me, at least, it wasn't very basic. And also just by adding some effects to my carrots. Now, obviously, I have no real knowledge about effects, so I just did this myself. Very, very, very basic. Just simply with the velocity in all the different directions, making it kind of small, and that's it, right? With a 16 rate, constant spawn rate of 16. It's very, very basic. And then the red slimes, I have it so that there's like multiple patrol ones. And then there's the spawn one, right? The spawn ones, they spawn up here and they go about like so. Whenever they spawn, they have a duration of 50 seconds before they get destroyed. I get the next position immediately. So next position, and that is with a list of transform points. I first immediately assign the next position to be the first one with a index list number 0. And then I check to see first whether or not the slime's position is pretty much equal to or less than, well, sorry, the distance between the slime position and the first point is 0.5, less than or equal to 0.5. If it's false, I then go ahead and I give it the position that it needs to go to. If it's false, we go ahead and we use the move towards the next position. And then we do a nice little check here to see if the value of the vector 3 of the next position is less than the current position of this slime. If it's true, then we go ahead and we flip the sprite with the X value, so that once it reaches here, it goes, this arrow then moves to this side. So then it moves this way, towards this next point. Then, if it is false though, it'll simply be moving in the positive direction, like normal. Okay, and then if this comes out to be true, we go ahead and we increase the list number. We change the point number by 1 every time. Every time it reaches a point, we increase it by 1, so that the next point gets, the next point's position gets got what? So that we can get the next position of the next point number. We give that to the next position. We move towards that next position. And then if it's false again, we make sure to give it the next position again, and we move towards it. Nice little loop that does this again. And then that way it goes from point to point to point to point to point to point to point. And then finally the last position is out of bounds, so that the slime goes and then dies. So that is how we do that. I think that is pretty much all I need to explain. This was pretty much the most complicated thing that I did. Took me the longest, I think. But once I figured it all out, it was quite alright. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been really fun. Cool. Today I'll be doing a quick playthrough just so you can see what I did in the game. I might not talk much. If I do speak, it'll just be to highlight something. Other than that, let's go. So this is just level 1. Nothing much has changed. I've been focusing very much on level 2. First of all, she dies. Let's quickly go ahead and complete the game. Okay, so level 2. First of all, I have a hidden chest over there. The chest increases your multiplier. I also have a pause menu. Shows you everything you need to know. The player can slide and jump off of walls. So slide and jump off of walls. The fire pits will kill you if you fall into them. I'm trying not to take damage, because if I take damage by the slimes, then it will reset my score multiplier. And I want to get a new high score to showcase that beating the high score will actually have like a thing, you know, like something will pop up. Ah no. There we go. At least the music's good, you know? Okay, so first of all, the hidden treasure's up here. But how does one get there? Oh no. How do I get there? Do I have to be really skilled? Do I have to do like a cool trick move? Nah. Impossible, something with the dog barking. One must become one with the devil in order to reach them. Yeah? Look at that. Ah, you can see the light coming through there? You can see like there's like a light coming through here, so... There we go. Just a lever. And then all of a sudden, secret ground. Boom. Increasing the multiplier. And then, on top of that, there's also this one over here. There we go. Like lots of points. And then there's another secret over here. Yep. We can get even more points. Boom, boom, boom. Satisfying. Oops. I would end it, but I want to kind of beat the score by a big amount. I'm gonna drop down here. Boom, boom. And in order to actually finish the level, you need to have 3 keys in your inventory. So I know which I do. And as you can see, my score is higher than my previous high score. So once I finish, sorry for that, it's loud, my bad. You get a new high score message saying what your new high score is. And then when you say a retry, it keeps your high score. Cool, alright. Then main menu doesn't bring you to the main menu. Perfect, perfecto. Quit button works. Awesome. Now to go through some of the scripts. It's quite a lot different. Oh, it's so laggy. Okay, so the player, I did quite a bit. Like first of all, firstly I did the wall check. I did like a wall check similar to like a ground check for the player, so that like I can do, so that I can check for when I'm on the wall, so I can do sliding, and then I can do jumping if I'm sliding. It's like the character actually has to be sliding in order for me to be able to jump. It's a long ass code. Sorry, excuse me. It's a long code, and I didn't really know how else better to do it other than just in up on update, but it works. My sliding and my jumping off the wall works, so I'm happy about that. I also did a slime kill thing where when I jump on the slime, they then die. So of course I have to be above the slime in order to do it. I mean, sorry, I have to have a negative velocity in the way, and I have to be, and it has to be on the trigger. All right, cool. Anyway, the other thing I did, I upgraded my jump, but that doesn't matter so much. Okay, so I didn't interact with the switch as well, so that like that bit of ground pops up. I'll show you the code for it as well on the other side. And I did keys. I did a key system. Pause. Now, the pause button is new. I didn't have the pause in my previous one. Glad to have that. All right, cool. That's mostly the changes for the player. The main big thing was the wall jumping. That was quite tough. All right, cool. Then let's go into the game manager because there's a lot new here. So here's the key increase and decrease text. There's a bit more of the pause menu. Did a few extra buttons for the pause menu. I did a bit extra stuff for the lose, like the win text also, sorry, the win script also increased in size quite a bit because of the stuff that I'm tracking. Here's the animation and stuff for the floor, like the switching and stuff for the floor, because you can actually deactivate the floor again as well, if you were to keep pressing the interact button. There's your multiplier for the score. Here's the chest increase of the score. So this is the code that gives you the increase in score for when you pick up the chest, and plus increasing the multiplier. There's the tracking of the highest score, increasing score, reduce score, updating your health. That was already there, and then just a few initializing stuff. In terms of other scripts, I mean, there was just a little bit of editing of this script for the slimes, for their movement between points, but it was mainly just changing this from like a set amount, well, a set value to a random, so that it just stays in between those, and that works quite well. I think that was pretty much it. Cool. This is what I've done. I could have done a lot better, but it is what it is. I tried. Anyway, This is experience. And yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. And so then the second half of semester 1 came around, and now we had to make the